Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dreams Unlimited Travel Podcast. My name is John Magi, and I will be your host. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about traveling to Disney with someone with disabilities, or if you have a disability. I'm joined at the table by our panel of experts: Client Services Manager for Dreams Unlimited Travel, Kevin Close.
Hi, everybody.
Agent Consultant for Dreams Unlimited Travel, Tracy Heinrichs.
Hi, everyone.
And back in our production facility, we have our producer, Craig Williams.
Hello.
Again, thank you, everybody, for joining us. We want to talk to you a little bit about traveling with someone with disabilities, or if you have a disability and going to Disney. But I want to make sure I put it out there right away that this is not an all-encompassing, comprehensive, covering everybody's situation. This is kind of sort of a little bit of a high-level talk about it, specifically concentrating on some of the changes that have occurred for folks in the parks who need special assistance. Again, we will not be able to cover every issue, every situation. So please understand that if we don't get to your situation, it's just something we can't cover in a show. So one of the reasons why this came up is Tracy recently traveled to Disney. Was it your mom who needed a scooter?
Yeah, my mom was in an ECV. And it had been, Chris was in a scooter last year when he had broken his foot. But we didn't really do a lot of attractions. It never really was an issue. It didn't seem that much different. So it had been a couple years since we'd been with my mom where we really were doing attractions and kind of living the scooter life, sort of. And I was surprised that a number of things had changed since the last time we had done it. I wasn't prepared. So I didn't research ahead of time.
Did you have a scooter from an outside company, or you just went to Disney during the day?
In this case, we rented them from Disney. We were staying at the campground, and it was a little bit inconvenient getting with the internal bus system and stuff.
Sure.
So we decided just to rent it in the parks for the 3 days that she was going to be there. So we did not use an outside company. But you can use outside companies to rent your scooters. In most cases, it will be cheaper. You can rent them by the week as opposed to by the day that Disney charges. As well as you'll then have it for other areas outside of the parks. So if you need it, it can be a walk from the bus to the park entrance, if you need it for that distance, or you're going to go to Disney Springs or explore around your resort. There certainly could be other reasons.
There could be quite some walking. So, get it delivered to the resort. Just make your life a lot easier, I think.
And one of the things that changed in recent years with Disney is they have implemented what they call featured providers.
Yes.
So if they're a featured ECV provider, they can actually drop your ECV off at the resort and leave it with Bell Services for you to get. If you were renting from a non-featured company, that just means that you need to meet them in person and do the exchange. So they're not able to just leave it with Bell Services.
There's a great many companies out there that provide
There's a lot.
ECV scooters, wheelchairs. So Disney has just narrowed it down to their preferred providers that they give access to. But there's a lot out there. I'm sure you could do some shopping around.
Yeah.
For sure. One of the nice things about using the preferred person is that, usually if it's left at Bell Services or something like that, they know to take care of it, and they know to hold it for you. You don't have to physically be there.
Right, because it'd be hard to coordinate. If you're flying in with getting Magical Express, it can be hard to coordinate, the logistics of meeting somebody to pick up, or you have to do it on your first full day and you're taking out a park time. So
did you drive to the park, or you took Disney transportation and then
we had done both. When we went to the Magic Kingdom, we used Disney transportation. We used the boat. And my mom also has a walker. So she used her walker to get to the point where we rented the scooter. And Disney will actually store that for you. So if you bring your own walker, or you have your own manual chair and you're getting an ECV or crutches even, they'll give you a little tag claim check, and they'll store it they'll store it there for you in that area. So we just picked it back up when we were done.
The other nice thing too is if you're driving and you get to you park in the parking lot and you park in the disabled parking areas, there are wheelchairs there.
Right, and we had done that at a couple of the parks where we had drove, and she has a handicap parking sticker. So we parked relatively close, and they had those, lender chairs. Yeah, and so we used one of those just to get somebody from your car to the front of the park where you can actually get them a scooter. What parks did you get the scooters in? Magic Kingdom, Epcot, and Animal Kingdom. Studios was quite a bit less walking. especially now. And where their accessible parking is really close to the entrance.
Yes.
So there she used just her walker, and she was okay with that. It was a shorter day.
What did you find different? What were you surprised about?
I was surprised, especially at the Magic Kingdom, that a lot of the queues had changed. So, there was a lot of queues, like the first one we came across was Haunted Mansion, where you can't take the ECV through the line, and they're no longer taking people through the exit to enter. There used to be a different way to enter when you had an ECV at the Haunted Mansion. They don't do that anymore. You actually park the ECV, kind of like stroller parking, and they have manual chairs there. So you take the manual chair and you push the manual chair through the line. We did have fast passes, so we take the manual chair through the fast pass line. But we could no longer take the ECV through, and my understanding is there's a number of attractions like that. Disney provides a disability guidebook for each of the parks, and it is available in its totality online. So you may want to check that out ahead of time based on what attractions you want to see, and kind of be familiar with their load and unload and what's available.
So one of the things I think is important to point out is a lot of times, it's the best way to say this, people who are a bit insensitive think that people who use scooters are lazy, and perhaps they get some special treatment at Disney. Now think about this.
You're trying to be sensitive to them?
I'm trying to put it in a sensitive way and not say what I really want to say. So think about this now. This person who has limited mobility now has to pay money for this scooter, get in the park, is now wants to ride Haunted Mansion like everybody else. Now you've got to transfer to a manual wheelchair to actually get on the physical ride. I mean, this is a lot of work for somebody.
It
And
is.
what happens if you're traveling alone?
Oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
how difficult
For the
it must
most
be.
part, we had a cast member that was very helpful with us at the Haunted Mansion, and he went above and beyond for us. My understanding is that I don't believe a cast member could push you through the line. So if you're on your own, I don't know that you could. Now, this isn't all attractions. The problem is, I'm going to devil's advocate for a second. There was a need to change it as well, the way it worked, because there's so many more now. First of all, the parks are busier, so just by sheer numbers, there's going to be more. And it's just, there were so many of them. So there were situations where when they're in regular queues with the ECVs, people are getting run over, or kids are getting run over. The particular cast member we were talking to said they had a problem at the Haunted Mansion because they would bring them in a separate area, and they had, cast members were getting hit, and it's
so
dark
dark
back
in there,
there. So there's a safety concern, and I kind of understand what was happening with them because there just were so many more of them.
There's also a large number of the population that are aging.
Yes.
No, for sure.
A
Baby
large-
boomers are
the
easy.
baby boomers are aging.
I was going to throw in from the person who actually worked in a theme park, their perspective on it. I know there has been times back when I did work. I don't know if the policies had changed, but there was, I would say, maybe a handful of times where I did get a guest with an ECV by himself that would have to transfer into a chair. And as long as there was someone extra available and also willing to help, then we would, because it's not like, you hear the classic thing about a guest who might need a little extra assistance, like I'm trying to get up out of a ride vehicle, can I please take your hand? You're supposed to, no, yeah, I can offer you my arm, but you have to do the heavy lifting to get up and out. With this, I always felt like, and maybe I was breaking the rules, but I always felt like it's not, unless I purposely go and drive you into a wall in a wheelchair, there's no way for me to do harm to you. There's only a way for me to help you and be a service to you. So as long as we were staffed, I know that I would do it as well as other
physically
people.
pick somebody up and put them on a ride?
No, not physically pick them up.
I was trying to figure out where you're going with
in
this.
terms of a
Like
wheelchair.
pushing them in a wheelchair through a queue.
Yeah, no, picking. You are never allowed to.
I was just
pick
going to say, because
anyone.
I think that might cross the line.
No. That's
Physically picking somebody up.
the family would have to do that in that
Yeah,
case.
okay.
And I mean, we ran into that too, where they're able to get into a wheelchair, but then not able to transfer into a ride vehicle. It's tough, but I have also seen the backside of it with the transfer to a wheelchair. I have seen guests get stuck in the middle of queues because ECVs have snuck past them, and especially the ones that were are at the theme parks at Universal and Disney. You've seen them a million times. They are not tight turners, and there is not a single queue out there that doesn't have at least one tight turn in there. And it turns into that scene in Austin Powers where you have a vehicle trying to get its way turned around in a wall, and it's just back and forth, banging, banging, banging. So it's one of those things. I know Imagineers and Universal has tried to be present about it, but when it's not, that does happen, it's not because they don't want ECVs in always banging stuff up. It's not really that. It's just it wasn't designed
right,
the
exactly.
right way.
Right. I don't believe that Disney's changing these rules specifically to make things more difficult for somebody. I just think there's rules they have to change.
Yeah.
What else did you notice as being a difference between last visit and this visit?
I think that was the biggest difference, and the biggest surprise to me was the accessibility with the ECV and where we could. So I found myself at every attraction finding a cast member to ask how to handle it at that attraction.
They used to, I mean, maybe it was just so busy, but they used to have someone at the end of every line that would see somebody who needed assistance and say, okay, you have to either go to this entrance.
I find there's
or,
so much happening at an entrance now that I was often seeking somebody out and that I wasn't just automatically directed. So if you think of what's happening at an entrance now, and they do have usually a couple cast members, you've got people going fast pass, you get people going standby. There's also people holding a handheld device for those with the DAS. It was a disability access service card. It replaced the GAC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The DA, yeah. So what happens with those is now that's all changed as well. The old program had changed. It evolved into this new program, and now that's all electronic. So that was the other change that I had wanted to talk about, was now they can do it with your Magic Band. So you go to guest services with the person who requires the assistance. They take a photo of them, and then they link them with all of the travel party, up to 6 people, so that everybody goes together. And so now when you go to an attraction, you're no longer just like using the exit or the fast pass line automatically. You're given a return time. So that return time, they scan your Magic Band and they say, your return time, and now it's in your My Disney Experience account, so you can see when your return time is. You come back and you go through the fast pass line. So they
eliminate that card. That was an issue that people were forging.
It was, and unfortunately, we used that card for a number of years with Ben, and there was a lot of room for abuse in that system. And you know how it goes with people. If there's a way to abuse it, they'll find it.
What if I don't have a Magic Band? I don't wear a Magic Band.
And then they would use your card the same way. They would scan your card.
Your Park Pass?
Yeah, but
Okay.
They would have to figure out, with because you would still, whatever method you're using to get fast passes, if you're scanning your card or whatever it is. So you can still use, like I say, use these two systems in conjunction with each other, because now you can still get your 3 fast passes for the park. Use that. These return times that you get for the disability card, you get those one at a time. So you go to an attraction, they give you a return time, you come back, for whatever the wait would have been. So it gives you the option, which is what we always needed. We always needed to be able to wait in an alternate area where available, just so that we weren't in the queue. And for a lot of people, that's the issue. Yeah. Know when you go to get this, first of all, what's changed too is that you don't have to go every day. So now when you get it, it's good for your length of stay. So when you get it, your first day of your trip, it covers your length of stay. If you're an annual pass holder and a local, it's good for 60 days.
Is this something you get in the theme park, or can you get it at your resort?
No, you get it in the theme park at guest services.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then you would go to each attraction to get your return time. Another thing with these is, I think I mentioned it, you can only get one at a time. They're good up to 6 people. They're not eliminating wait.
Right.
So, and that was never the purpose. The purpose of this program always was to level the playing field for those who needed it. It wasn't to give an advantage. So it's not eliminating wait. It's just making it a little bit easier for those that would have trouble with a regular queue for whatever reason. Most people with a mobility issue don't need that. Like for my mom with the scooter, we did not need that separate accommodation. That's a totally different thing. And for most people, using a mobility device would help their issue with waiting in line. They can't stand for long periods of time or whatever that might be.
You're talking about someone might have a child with special needs that can't wait in the line, doesn't have that ability to do so.
You may have adults, with, claustrophobia issues or different kinds of anxiety issues that may be. What I want to say though is when you're going to get this, it's not about your condition. It's not about saying, I have this, so give me that. That they're going to say, no, you're good. You need to be very specific about what your needs are. They don't want a doctor's note. The fact that your doctor wrote a note to say that you should get this is not going to help you. You just need to be specific about what your needs are. I cannot wait in the regular queue because of X, Y, and Z. This is what I need assistance for.
It's interesting because technically, by law, they're not allowed to ask.
Well, they can't ask what your disability is.
Okay.
But they can ask what you need help with.
Okay.
So that's what
they're
they're
saying,
asking.
I can't walk, I can't stand, or
And if the case of I can't walk, I can't stand, they're probably going to tell you this is not going to help you. You need a mobility device.
gotcha.
But if your issue is like for a child with autism, I know in our particular case with Ben, and I mean, it varies. If you know one kid with autism, you know one kid with autism. I mean, it's very different.
Right, it's a big spectrum.
Right. So for us, it was being in that line with people all around him, especially when he was smaller. It was a lot. There was a lot going on, and I couldn't be in the middle of a queue and him have a freak out and not be able to go anywhere. So being able to wait somewhere separate, that was what was helpful for us. So it almost wasn't even really about the condition. It was about this is the accommodation I need, and I think that's how they work that. So tell us what help you need, not necessarily what's wrong with you.
Gotcha. Excellent. I think I'm one of these people who probably do not speak for the majority of people going to Disney. I believe they should do away with all this, and I'm sorry if you have a disability, make a special accommodation. I just think that that's the right thing to do. I think that people with disabilities have enough challenges in their lives that now they have to go to Disney and, get a special access and, worry about being pushed through a queue. I think Disney should make rides accessible through some kind of removing of barriers or something like that, but I don't think that's always
So
possible.
wouldn't help Tracy's situation that she described.
But I'm saying if they have a special entrance that says, okay, this is a zero wait.
The problem is people.
Yeah.
The problem is people, right? The problem is I believe that if given the choice, Disney and other companies would love to do that.
Yeah.
But the problem is people and
Screaming,
the abuse.
not fair.
Yeah, people screaming not fair, but also
Listen
the
to the
abuse.
people who complain that the people with a wheelchair get on the bus before they do, because there is that one seat on the bus where they can sit. Or that a person might get on It's a Small World before them, but there is one boat with one seat in it. So I am staying out of this conversation because it makes me angry.
It does. And, I just want to say there is no doubt, and I don't believe anybody at this table would say that this is not an abused system. There are people in the parks in ECVs that don't need them. There are people who will get this disability pass that don't need it. But that is not the majority.
And I am going to say something on top of that. That is not your place to decide who that is.
Right. And that's what I wanted to say. Like, the idea that you could be, you're angry about this. You're angry that because this is an abused system and you lash out at somebody. You don't know that that's not the somebody who really needs it.
Exactly.
And I can tell you for the person who really needs it and who's in there legitimately, for lack of a better word, they would rather be anywhere else.
Anything else. Nothing would make them happier than to be able to stand in that line with everybody else and experience
You
what
also
you're
have
experiencing.
other people who are promoting this fantasy.
They are.
Ruby Goldberg once said that she wouldn't go back to Disney World because too many fat people were in scooters. I say, bye, don't come back.
Yeah.
Yes, I believe there are people that are abusing it. I think that is a small number of people, and you need to decide that you're going to err on the side that I don't know who that is. And I think anybody who thinks that someone is renting a scooter because it's more fun should spend the day in a scooter.
Exactly. In those scooters that go so slow.
Oh, I know. I know when Chris had to use one, he just, it was to the point where he didn't even really want to go. Like, it just wasn't even worth it because it was so, and I have to say, you talked about Disney and, making it accessible. We had to travel other places with Chris when he had his broken foot that weren't accessible and didn't even make the effort.
Disney is one of the most accessible places on
And so we
Earth.
realized just how much Disney was doing. And everybody, you think it's just the norm. But when you get outside of that bubble and you realize it's not even almost the norm.
I'm going to say something about somebody we know.
Okay.
We have a friend who lives in North or South Carolina. I apologize, Skip. I'm going to talk about you for a minute. And Skip tells me that Disney World is the only place on earth he can go by himself. Mm-hmm. He gets on a train in South Carolina and comes to Disney. What?
I think it's north, but
In
same
my
idea.
mind, they're all
In one
the
of the
same place.
Carolinas.
It's like North and South Dakota. We should just call them Carolina and Dakota. Just so I don't get me.
Oh, there goes more listeners.
There's nobody in North and South Dakota. I'm kidding. Right to Tracy. But he comes here by himself. And Skip needs assistance most of the time. He doesn't here.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big thing. But no one who is using a mobility device has an easier time of it. And if you think they do,
That's one of the things that really bothers me is people think that somehow this is, they have it better, they have it easier. Look how
they're getting there
great things
first,
are.
they're getting there faster, they're getting more than I'm
Drives me
getting.
insane.
Please rent a scooter for the day. I'm happy to have you rent a scooter for the day and try it and tell me how much more fun you're having.
I remember when Ben was younger, somebody said to him, "Why do you keep going back to Disney all the time? Don't you want to go anywhere else?" And he said, "At Disney, I'm just normal." And that was what it was about. They just leveled the playing field enough that he just felt normal. And so these extra things that they were doing that other people see as special and above and unique and, unfair were things that just made him feel normal. And so that's what it's all about. And that's, I believe, what the whole Disabilities Act is about, is leveling the playing field.
Exactly.
And Disney does, I think, a better job
Right.
of that than anybody. I think you're about to wrap up. If I can leave you with anything, there's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of places. The Disboards has a whole disability section, and there's a great moderator over there, Sue. She is a wealth of knowledge. She has that board running like a fine-tuned machine, and the information there is comparable nowhere, I don't believe. So there's a lot of information for you to, now don't go on there and pose and say, I have this, what are they going to do for me? It's not that kind of board.
Right.
You want to go over there and you want to feel sorry for yourself, and you're not going to get that over there. You're going to get people who are going to be honest with you, who are going to share what they need to share with you to help you, but also people who understand that every single person is different.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of Disney has a lot of information on their website. Traveling with Cognitive Disabilities, they have a guide on their website about that. Each of the parks, they have their guidebooks on, so you can be more prepared than I was. I was embarrassed to admit it. I didn't know about these changes. Like, I didn't, because that wasn't part of our world for a while.
They can access hearing. There's access for hearing disabilities. Excuse me.
There's a lot out there. So
We have a lot of experience with this. It's, we talk about this quite a bit. Kevin's mom used to be in a wheelchair, but since she has passed and we don't go to Disney that much with someone in a wheelchair, we don't keep up with a lot of it. So again, this is something that only someone who's experienced with this will know, all the ins and outs. I do want to say one more thing. You talk about Disney being so good. Think about even the United States, and Canada has their own disability act. Going to Europe was a surprise for us. Going to Asia was a surprise for us. We went to one restaurant and Kevin said he had used the restroom, and he said, "Is there a restroom on this level?" "Oh yeah, there's one on this level. You don't have to climb any stairs."
Well, the restaurant was 2 levels down. The first one they told me the restaurant was 2 floors down.
But it was we went to that restaurant where they served the duck, which was just weird, and they said to you, "Oh no, we got you all set. We know you can't climb stairs, so go use this restroom that's on this level." What did you have to do to get to this restroom?
You had to leave the restaurant through the kitchen and go down 4 stairs and go across a cobblestone courtyard and go up 4 stairs and go through another restaurant to another set of 3 or 4 stairs and then go into a third restaurant where the bathroom was on this level. And I came back and I said, "You thought this was accessible?"
We had to go through a courtyard that was pitch black. I had to put my phone out so that we could see where we were going.
And there were stairs at each point.
But they couldn't understand why we didn't think it was okay.
We stayed in a hotel in Germany, and they said, "Oh, we know you need. I have trouble with bathtubs. I need a stand-up shower stall." And they said, "Oh, we're going to put you in the accessible room." Well, you got off the elevator where that room was, and there were 3 steps up to like a mezzanine level, and then into our room were 3 more steps. And then when you got into the shower, there were 2 steps up into the shower.
I'm like, Kevin, you have to step up into the shower. How do they expect anyone with a wheelchair, with anything? I don't understand how they think about it. But yes, Disney is certainly the gold standard when it comes to, accessibility and access for sure.
The United States, if you're leaving the United States, you have to be prepared for less accessibility.
Absolutely true. All right, like I said, this is a very, very big topic, and we can't possibly cover everything, but I'm glad Tracy brought us up to date on some of the changes. So if you're traveling with somebody who needs those special needs, who has those requirements, hopefully that has helped you out. Thank you, everybody at home, for joining us. Thank you for listening and watching. We hope you have a great week, and we hope you have a great vacation.